Hey guys, it's Mr. Shaw. Today we're going to be looking at J12, which is to solve proportions using word problems. Word problems tend to be a little bit trickier for a lot of us, and often I see a lot more frustrated students with scores that were kind of hovering between 50 and 70, not quite reaching that 80 bar. So I wanted to actually start off today with looking at what IXL offers if you do get stuck on something. Obviously, you can reach out to any of your teachers, but there's also this thing here that says learn with an example. So let's take a look at what it says. The first thing that it tells us is, of course, an example of a question, and it tells us what the solution is, but it goes through each of the steps that you would need to take. Sometimes there's also a key takeaway, which can help with you just having something in mind you can apply to later skills. But I notice here that it has a step for what I do with the numbers in the problem. So in the example, which it'll even read aloud to me, Oscar took a total of 21 quizzes over the course of 7 weeks. After attending 8 weeks of school this quarter, how many quizzes will Oscar have taken in total? Assuming the relationship is directly proportional. Now, this is a little too soon thinking about how many weeks that we've attended this quarter, but you can see that they set up the proportion, much as we've done on the skill that we did earlier this week, and now you can check out the video from Wednesday if you are not sure how to do this. Set up each of these as ratios in the form of fractions. 21 quizzes over 7 weeks, and then an unknown number of quizzes over 8 weeks. Then you can see here that they're doing a bit of a multiplication. 7 times 8, 7 times 8. This is a bit of our cross multiplication that's taking place here. Once they've simplified, then they multiply here, solve for n, and you've got your answer. Every single time you go through one of these problems, you can always go through step by step and kind of read through what the explanation is, and it can be a helpful backbone for it. Another thing I showed you in a previous video is that it can show you some of the easier skills that you may want to have mastered before you move to the harder skills. So here we're looking at word problems, but there is an easier skill that you may want to go to. Do these ratios form a proportion word problems? Still dealing with word problems, but kind of breaking it down a little bit more than what we have to deal with here. All right, let's take a look at this problem. Anita jarred 24 liters of jam after 8 days. If you've ever jarred jam before, depending on what kind of fruit you use, that is a lot of jars of jam to make, so that's really impressive. Good job, Anita. How many days does Anita need to spend making jam if she wants to jar 27 liters of jam in all? Assume that the relationship is directly proportional. So I'm going to start off with the step that I saw in the example, which was that they set this up as fractions. So, okay, 24 liters of jam over 8 days, and that would be equal to 27 liters of jam over, and they used a variable to represent the number we didn't know. I think they used n. You can use x, you can use t, you can use j for jam, but I like to use n because my cursive is terrible, and at least I know it's a cursive letter. So then they went ahead and cross-multiplied. Now, in the last problem, they actually multiplied by both. I'm going to go ahead and cross-multiply like this. What I want to have ended up is that the 24 and the n are on this side, because I can't multiply a variable times a number like that. And then 8 times 27. Oh, that's fun. Mr. Shaw's going to have to show his work on this one because there's no times tables that tell him how to do that. So 8 times 7 is 56. Ooh, there's a 6. Oh, that's the best 6 I've ever drawn. And then I'll put the 5 up here. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 5 is 21. So that's 216. Okay, then I need to solve for n. So let me go ahead and divide this by 24. Obviously, I can't divide by n, because you can't divide by a variable, because we don't know what that variable is. And then put the 24 over here. Okay, n equals something. Now you're at home, so you might be tempted to use the calculator on your phone or a calculator app, and really no one can stop you. But I still want to make sure that I'm showing you how we do this the right way and the full way, so let's go ahead and divide. So 24 goes into 216. Let's go ahead and long divide that bad boy. 24 on the outside. Well, I may have to use a little bit of skip counting to get this right. So 24 times 4, I know is 96, times 5 is 120, 144, 168, 168 plus 24, 192, and then 192 plus 24 gives me 216. Oh, wow, it goes in exactly 9 times. That's crazy. So n equals 9. Now that took a little bit longer, which is why I think a lot of people get frustrated at these problems, but let's see what this correct answer Bingo does to our smart score. It's already a 10. We'll get this done in no time at all. Let's try another. Tanner used 16 centimeters of tape to wrap 4 presents. If you've ever been wrapping presents before, like I do, usually I don't measure the tape and then it's all crinkly on the edges and it's terrible. So I usually just put my gifts in bags. How many presents did Tanner wrap if he used 36 centimeters of tape? Assume the relationship is directly proportional. All right, let's go ahead and set up our fractions again. So I started off with 16 centimeters of tape to wrap 4 presents. And tape is expensive, so you want to make sure you measure this right so you don't buy too much tape or waste any tape and get it all stuck on your fingers. So if I have 36 centimeters of tape, how many presents can I wrap so that I don't have to go out to the tape store and buy more tape? So I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply again. 36 times 2 is 72, so times 4 is 144. That gives me 16n equals 144. Now, Mr. Shaw did that in his head, so he is going to go ahead and just check his work by multiplying 36 times 4. I do not want my smart score to go down because I goofed and rushed. So 6 times 4 is 24. Carry that little 2. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. All right, good. So Mr. Shaw did it right. Let's move on to the next step, which is divide by 16. And that's going to tell me that n equals something. I like numbers like this because I know 4 goes into all of this stuff, so it's actually a little bit easier for me to solve this. In fact, I think I can actually simplify this a little bit so that I don't have to do this hard division. What if I divided both of these by 2, or by 4, or by 8? Well, now I'm just going to be divided by 16. So if I divide both of these by 2, then on the bottom, in my denominator, I'll have 8. And I know I can divide 144 by 2 because it's an even number. And so if I divide that by 2, I get 72. I think I can cut these in half again. Let's try dividing that again. I just got half of 72 when I was working on this, and that was 36. And half of 8 is 4. And I know 36 divided by 4, that's 9. So it looks like 16 goes into 144 9 times. Wow, that was the same answer as my last one. So if I have 36 centimeters of tape, I can wrap 9 presents without them getting all crinkly fried. Keep it up, says iExcel. Each one of these has the same steps, and I want to make sure we review them before I do one last example for you. Step 1 is going to be to set up our fractions into 2 equivalent fractions. So our ratios have to get rewritten this way. And I've got to make sure I match what values I'm dealing with. So if I have 8 kilograms of dough after working for 4 hours, then the next number is 12 kilograms of dough. That needs to match where that 8 kilograms used to be. If one's on the top, the other one can't be on the bottom. If one is on the left, the other one needs to match. So if I put 8 kilograms here, then the 12 kilograms needs to match up right here. By the same, if I've got 4 hours down here and I'm trying to find out how many hours she worked, then the variable has to be in a matching position, both on the bottom like this. Step 2, cross multiply. And here I've got 8n equals 48. Good old times tables. And step 3, solve for n. Well, this one's a little bit easier because, again, we've got our little old times tables, and so I know that n equals 6. Let's try it out. Man, my smart score just keeps going up. See if you can try some of these on your own, and if you have any questions, let me know.